Today's daf is daf Yud Aleph, and we introduced yesterday. Ula said the name of Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabba was continuing perpetuating that opinion. As we found out yesterday, Rabba was actually a Talmud of Rabbi Yochanan. He learned by him, and the details of that we don't really have because Rabba was in Bavel and Rabbi Yochanan was in Eretz Yisrael. But we have a few Gemaras where it seems that Rabba was a Talmud from Rabbi Yochanan, and that is that a carbon Talmud. They had leftover carbonis. That leftover carbonis. Every year, you have to have 4 days of observation. And so and we know that when you buy, they used to buy from a lishka. There was a trumas, a lishka, there was these chambers, and they used that money to buy carbonis. But comes a Chedesh Nissen, you can no longer use the old money. You have to start using the new money. The problem is that you had animals. You always have in your pen sheep for 4 days to observe whether they have a mum, whether a mum is appearing. They didn't notice in the beginning. So if you brought it 4 days before the Chedesh Nissen, okay, you brought it late afternoon, so you use right away one, what do you call it? You use up whatever kabbanas, and the next morning you use up two of the rest. You have 4 left over, and if you have 4 left over, you have 4 days worth. So you have 4 left over. What do you do with that? You can't use it anymore. It's just Chedesh Nissen. You can't use them anymore. So what then you do is Rabbi Yochanan says you paid it. You paid it for chulin, and then you take new money and you buy these animals back. So we had a whole discussion yesterday. Usually you have to wait till it has a mum once you consecrate an animal. How can you just straight out be paid it? So Rabba yesterday, Mechadish, there's a concept called Leiv Bezin Masna Leiv. That Bezin, when they set this all up, they said, well, if we need it, it'll be a carbon. But it turns out to be we don't need it, it's always carbon. Leiv Bezin, that means they don't have to articulate it. Sorry? It's more. It's a tanai, but it's not even an explicit tanai. They don't have to spell it. It's leiv bezin masna leiv. Then we brought up a case of Titus because there's always leftover Titus as well. Because you set aside 368 money in the beginning of the year, and then you use up 365 because they equal out with the shnas levana. But then you have 3 left over, and that's for the Yom Kippur. The Kohen Gadol would put his hand inside and the Molech of Naim. But it was he has to put it inside, so he had to have a lot. But he never used the whole amount. And we can learn from Christus that over a number of years, over a period of 60, 70 years, they had half of the 368 that they actually needed. And again, and what do you do with it? What do you do with the leftover potatoes? Again, you just go ahead and there's a whole elaborate scheme of how to do it. But bottom line is you redeem it. You use it as wages for we learned the 3 steps in our skull. 3 steps how you eventually get it out. Clean the money. You clean it because you can't use it again because it's last year's money you bought the potatoes. You can't use it for this year. So there's a whole modus operandi of how to do that. Again, lay bezin masna alein. Okay. So we're up to the bottom of the page. Abaye is now challenging Rabba. He's saying this whole concept of bezin I have problems with. Yeah. Okay. Ace of Abaye in the bottom of the page. If you're Aleph. Abaye asks a question. You believe in the concept of bezin masna alein? Explain to me the following. So if you have a bull and a goat of Yom Kippur, the pot is Aaron a Kohen, and the soyed is what represents the Bnei Yisrael. So if you have that, they got lost somehow or another on Yom Kippur. They got lost, mixed up with others. So you found a replacement animal, and then you eventually found it. What do you do with the original pot or the original soyed? The Chayin likewise, likewise, the Se'ide of Avodah Zarah, we're talking about a community now that are all committed a sin together in Avodah Zarah. Bezin Paskin, that this is all right, and we'll learn about Hoydius, which is actually next to that they were wrong. They made a mistake. So since it's the whole tzibur and it's Avodah Zarah, you bring a par as an oiler and a soyer as a chatas. And then what happened was they got lost. So you brought it up in this place. What do you do with the original? And then you found it. What do you do? Like cool on your musa, Div Rabbi Yehuda. We know there's 5 chatoyes shemesis. There's 5 different chatoyes that, for example, if the owner lost it and he replaced it with another one, so he already had his kapara. There's no point in bringing the original chatas again. What are you bringing it for? You're already in his kapara. Or chatos shemesu ba'aleh. The 5 different chatoyes that we say that you let it die. You don't feed it and let it die, including these. Comes along Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Shimon. And Oimim, they say, Yiru Achi Yistaivu. They say, no. You let it die, you let these have a moon. Now we're talking about a karmachatas. How can it be? You let them wander around, have a moon. You sell it, the Yiplu Demain Ledava, and let the money fall into the dover, which means that what you use it to buy kabbanas to fill them back. Sheikh, and why? Why is that? We know 5 chatois mesas. So they say she'ein chata tzibur mesa. The tzibur never dies, so therefore the tzibur always can use a kapara. So there's a klal that they have, and Abid argues she'ein chata tzibur mesa. You don't kill it, so, but you have to, in order to be paid, you have to let it wander about and get a mum. So I don't understand. You just said leiv bezna masna leyen. So the bezna would say in this case, bezna says this bezna made it tonight. If we don't need this particular chata that we set aside for Yom Kippur, if we don't need it for the Avodah Zarah, it's carbon. Use your principle. Why do you actually use dive? Why wait till it has a mum? Just be paid just straight out right. Lay bezim asna lane. It's lave. It means these are all automatic things. This is self-understood. So no, Abai is saying to the Rabbi, I'm challenging your whole principle of lay bezim masna lane. That bezim, as if bezim made a condition that this is the only time we want it to be working. So they go. So Rabbi answers back to Abaya. So at least you see Abaya doesn't only challenge Rabbi Yosef, he challenges Rabbi just as well, and you'll soon see in a minute Abaya. On the contrary, this is the best Talmidim. When you say Talmida Yosef Kulam, it's exactly like Abaya. I mean, he is the best. No one else challenges the Rebbe as much as Abaya did. Avudin Ka'amre, this is talking about a case where he's got lost. And so what? Remember, we make a rule. When you make a rule, it's only on common events, common occurrences. This, that you lost it, especially in Kippur, or you lost it in the Kainim Zrizinheim, which means that they know what they're doing, and it's very, very rare, and we don't make the Kainim a rare case. Okay. So that now, and this is baffled all the Rishonim. Comes along Abaye and says, "What are you talking about? I think that late bezna, if you believe in late bezna masna alein, it should work even in rare cases." And what's that? Had a potter adumid leshkicha. In Sachakel there were 7 potters adumas from beginning of time till Mashiach. And if there were 7 potter adumas, it's obviously very, very rare. The story of Dama ben the Sinner, you see how rare it is. Sorry? Yeah, but all the Rishonim here quote 7. Right, we say there were 9 and then 7 on Mashiach. All the Rishonim here quote 7, which is interesting. Yeah, so they were what do you call it? Sorry? But there's no, that's it. Yeah. So you look over here, Rashi, the whole Yemei Bayis Rishon or Bayis Sheni Eloi Asu El Sheva. They only made 7 Potter Hadumas. So he says over here, Tanya, where is it? What does the Rambam say? The Rambam says this was 9 from Moshe Rabbeinu. Maybe Rashi is not counting the Mishkats. But Tanya, we learned so what's the problem? So the should not be a lead bezin maslin. And yet we learned the Braisa. Potter niftis al kol psul shabbat. That if anything happens to the potter that makes it possible, you could be paid it. For example, Mesa. The potter died on its own. You didn't shecht it. You're supposed to shecht it outside the base of English and burn it and all that. It died. Tifta. So what do? You paid it. You paid it directly. Okay. It died. Nishchta, you shecht it. You shechted it. Tifta. In other words, what do you mean? You shechted in the wrong place. It's possible. Redeem it. Okay, these are redeeming just like a mum that makes it possible. But then the question will be in a minute. Motza acheres no heimena. You set aside a paraduma, you made the kiddush and the others, and you found a better one. So what do? Tifta. This animal is unblemished, it's healthy, and you paid it directly. How can you pay it directly? You can't, the kedusha heichen ozla, so you have to say lay bezin masna lane. But paraduma is a rarity, and you said before the rarity you don't do lay bezin lane. Shachta al gabi marachasa. Let's say you shecht it on its right place, harazation. Then that's it. Once you shake everything correctly, you can no longer be paid because now it's mamash a paraduma. Now the question is, you said that's something that's rare. There's no lead bezin, and this baffled all the Rishonim. What's going on here? A minute ago, Abaye was saying, "I don't believe in the whole concept of lead bezin masna lay," and he's asking all these questions. We had one question yesterday, one question today. And Rabbi said to him, "Look, we believe in lead bezin masna lay, not when it's a milsalish gicha. Now Abaye, not only is he a believer in let bezin masan lane, he's like even in milsul l'shkicha like paraduma. Let's say let bezin masan lane. What do you tell me? No stories. So the Rishonim are interesting. The Ritva and others say that Abaye, when he asks questions to Rabbi Yisrael Rabbah, is not generally arguing with them. He's trying to tease out of them to the very end, to the very end of the shot. And this is the best ayah. He's jumped back and forth. So what does he hold? So because sometimes you see Abaye ask Rabbi Yisrael, everything Abaye is arguing Rabbi Yisrael. So he says not arguing. He's just a Talmud. He just wants to understand. So when you answer this way, he'll answer this way. You answer this way, he'll answer that way. Not because he believes one way or another. Trying to tease out the emes. Anyhow, the one answers shiny poraduma. Poraduma is if you know why. The kochi bedekabai. The poraduma is not a carbon, even though we call it chatzas. It's not really a carbon because it's done outside the base of English. It's kochi bedekabai to maintain everything that's going on. The kain to be tired and the kalim should be tired. So therefore, and kochi bedekabai is there's no let bezin masna. Says the Gemara, if so. And therefore, so therefore going back, sorry, and you're asking me, it's a Muslim shikha, there's no lebez masala, and you're right. But what's the problem? Kedushas haguf, you cannot be poida, you cannot redeem it. If this thing itself is holy, we ask, Kedusha lehechen ozla, or lehechen hocha, the Gemara says there. Kedusha lehechen hocha. But when it comes to Bedek Abayis, it means the thing itself is not holy. Its value is what you knew, so why can't you redeem it? I'm not taking it. You can't ask me where did the kedusha go. There's no kedusha in the first place. It was just a commitment for the value. So therefore, you can be paid it. Nothing to do with like bezin. Nothing to do because that kedusha go. Kedusha bedek abayis. Shabai asked back. He doesn't let go. If we're talking about kedusha bedek abayis, how can it be paid? We got another problem. And what's the problem? The problem is ihachi meisa nishchda tivda. It says it has to be able to stand and it has to be able to be assessed. And the problem is, and the animal in the other cases where you're paid, you shachted it died by itself. If we're talking about kedusha bedek abayis, how can you be paid it? Where's the hemid? Can't stand. And then you can't have that. So if you're talking about over here, kedusha bedek abayis and not let bezin masna land, explain the first part. How you paid it. Not because you said goof the problem is the hemid. Says the Gemara, Hamani Rab Shimoni. That's not a problem with the Rabbi. This follows Rab Shimon. And what's so about Rab Shimon? Rab Shimon holds you don't need hamoda v'harocha when it comes to bedek abayis. So therefore, there's no problem in the beginning. How you paid it, how you can't stand it up, doesn't matter. Because you bedek abayis. And then you'll know how come if it's a healthy animal and you found a better one, much no ameno. You can go ahead, acheres no ameno. You can go ahead and you paid it directly because no kedusha, bedek abayis. And so by as back, if with Rab Shimon, I got another problem. It says here, Amos say, look at the end of the Braisa. We just said, Shachta al gabi marachaso. You did it correctly. Everything's done correctly. Now it's a paraduma, found. You can never be paid it. And but Tanya, this very Rab Shimon, the din is that oichel is matami. If one is muchshel kabel tumas matami others. Kol's man, it has the gather of oichel, criteria of food. What's the criteria of food that someone's allowed to eat it? Even a goy. Yeah, it's also about no. You can't even give it to a goy, right? So the paraduma should not be considered food. So if it becomes tummy, and once it's paraduma, it's not makabel to because it's not food. And the problem that Shimon holds it is. And why does Shimon hold it is? Because there's a time you can redeem it and make it uis paraduma. And because it has a potential to be redeemed, it's as if it's redeemed already, and therefore has a status of food. How can it be redeemed? Once it's on the marachasa, once you shechted, you made a proper paraduma, that's it. The Shimon holds doesn't matter. Shimon holds you can still have redeemed it. Which is going to be a problem with the Braisa that you're claiming is Shimon also, where it says clearly, Ein la pedi elamis. Now, what's the story here? Latanya, Shimon says, even though it's asubano, and everyone holds asubano, of course, he's putting up Shimon. Is not metame tumah because nobody else can eat it. And paradum is also no, still, it's metame tumah. If what? If a shedet touches its flesh, and then the flesh of the paraduma touches something else, after you shechted something else, that thing will become tummy because oichel became tummy. Why? It had a shasa kosher. What be? Yeah. Now, and Rab Shimon Lakish and Amar Ish Lakish. Oymen Hoyer Rab Shimon. What shut Rab Shimon? When is the Shasa Kosher? That Poro Niftis Al Gabe Marachasa. That even if you shechted it correctly in Marachasa, you can still be redeeming it. When? If you found somebody nicer, the Shlach is learned Pshat and Abshimon, that even if you shechter on Marachasa, it could be nifter. You know when? In Motza Acheres, when we said before, Motza Acheres, no man, not while the animal's still alive. Even if you shechted already, you did everything correctly, you could still be paid. Now, even though right now you didn't find a better one, it's such a rare thing. Oh, yeah, true, but that's it. It doesn't matter. Yeah, you're right. But it doesn't matter. The point is, he's saying over here is it has a potential. Even the poil you can't carry it out because you didn't find it no acheres meno, but it has a potential. So what is he from here? That if you found acher, you could be paid it. No, but Rav Shimon said in the Brisa before that you claim Rav Shimon's author that clearly ain't pedir lamis, never can be nifter. Hello, you're right. Lev bezin masna leyin, and if it's a milsul shkicha, we don't do it. That's why in the case of all those lost animals, there's no lev bezin. We have to wait till it gets a mum. I put a duma. El shiny put a hoyel with the melyukorin. It is so expensive that bezin thinks about it, even though it's a Zeltner case or hardly ever happens. Shkicha, bezin will think about it as well. What exactly does it mean that the melyukorin? You already paid that money. It's over. And once you redeem the animal, you're not going to use it again for paraduma unless you can get your money back. Maybe if it's from the same owner, maybe you can go swap. You give this one in and you give me the other one back. So therefore, it's the mail you're cutting of the one that you're trying to redeem. The mail you're cutting helps us because you can use that, I guess, to swap. Maybe. Amamad, you said Mesa. If you said what Mesa party, you said what if the animal died, you can redeem it. The paraduma. What are you redeeming it for? You can't eat it. You're saying you can redeem it and do what with it? What are you going to do with it? Is he paid it to give it to feed to the to animals? They can't do anything with it. The hide. So you might have a kaim of bezin and masna died to the. You tell me to let bezin masna link with them. And it's after you talk about after you shachted already. After you shachted, because you can't do anything with it already. So what are you telling me? That with the hide, you can use the hide. What's the hide worth? Oh, no, there's a saying that from a camel, take even the ear, take what you can get. So if we can get the hide from the paraduma, we'll take that. Actually, it should be pretty nice to hide that red, hide, flawless. Hey, so that's a question. Hey, so the question, in our Mishnah, not why we bring this whole Gemara here, because of the following questions from our Mishnah. They asked Reb Shimon Yochai, who said that every single mitzvah, that Yom Kippur B'chutz is doing one kind of tumah. If there was no Yedi in the beginning, Yedi in the end. Yom Tovim is no Yedi at all, beginning or end. And your Chedesh is a Torah, 8 Chedesh Tameh. So they asked the question, what happened? You lost, let's say, the Chedesh one, and you found it on Yom Tov. Can you bring it up on Yom Tov? You lost the Yom Kippur one, can you bring it on Chedesh? That's Reb Shimon. He said, yes, you can bring it. How can you? It's achieving different things. How can you do that? Each one is doing a different kapara. They have one thing in common. They're all involved with tumah. This is this prat, and this is this prat. It's a pratim. It's irrelevant. They're all involved in tumah. That's the question. Now, the answer very simple. Why do you have to say that? Just say lay bez and master lane. If you lost the Yom Kippur one, so we found another one and replaced it, say that lay bez and master lane, and we'll use that for the other one. So the Gemara, we're hard to understand. We're just on top of the page that it's a milsa de l'shkicha, and a milsa de l'shkicha to lose and replace it. We don't say lay bez and master lane. Anyway, so the Gemara, Rab Shimon Kamrit. You're saying Rab Shimon actually doesn't believe Leib Bez Basalain. When we said, the Rabbi Yechon said Leib Bez Basalain is only called the Chachamim, not according to Rab Shimon. In fact, have a Braisa. Rab Shimon, not a Braisa. Rab Yechon once said, according to Rab Shimon, ein nivdin. You cannot be pointed by the Tmidin. In the case of Tmidin, which we started off, the leftover for Tmidin, according to Rab Shimon, you don't say Leib Bez Basalain. And the Chachamim, nivdin, you could. Tracy, by the way, I forgot to tell you, wanted to say that on Yom Kippur, which is such a special day, we don't really lose it. But Yom Tovim or the Chodesh is possible to lose. It's a common thing. People are not so particular. And even though we threw in Yom Kippur there as well, in the Mishnah, we really were focusing more on the Yom Tovim and the Rosh Chodesh. That's how Taisa deals with it. Anyway, the Rabbanan argue with Rabbi Shimon, and they're the ones who believe that that's Masaleh. Freddy Gemara, Rabbanan, the Pligal Rabbi Shimon. Who are these Rabbanan who believe in Lebez Masaleh? You said Rabbanan argue. Who? You name it, Rabbanan Ketaitis, the Rabbanan we learned yesterday by Ketaitis. With by Ketaitis, we said, they've set aside a certain amount of Ketaitis. And they always have left over a little bit, especially, and you have to have from the New Year versus the Old Year. What do you do? The New Year stock versus the Old Year stock, because you plan for the whole year. And they say, lead bez and mas, and they say that what, you pay wages and all that. Is if they say that what, and lead bez and mas na lane, they're the ones who argue. Shiny Ketaitis delay about you. You have no breda. Buy an animal, you have a choice. You could say, you know what? Let the animal wander about, get a mum, and that's it. No kedusha anymore. We don't need to rely on this tanai and undo it retrospectively. But when it comes to the kedus, what can you do with it? Once it's sacrosanct, that's it. You can't do anything with it. You have no breda. So maybe they only say lay bezin where you have no breda. Ela rabbanon the potter. The rabbanon by potter dum. We just said that if he found a motzah noah cheres menu, he found a nicer one. Just go ahead and redeem it. Clear, like bezin masna lane, even though it's rare because it's expensive. Dilma shiny potter, the mel you come. We just said before, your potter duma is unique. It's so expensive, so we'll apply the rule at bezin. But when it comes to animals, why apply the rule? We have an alternative. The very rabbanon who asked the questions of Shimon. No, according to us, we have no problem. The Chodesh use on Yom Tov. Why do we have a problem? Even though we hold like Rabbi Yehuda that each Yom Tov is different, each has a different purpose. Lebez Masna Lane. But you who don't believe Lebez Masna Lane, how can you bring it? That's the Rabbanon. So the Gemara, Memai. How do you know that Rabbi Yehuda? So you think that the people who are asking Shimon the question hold like Rabbi Yehuda, which means that on Yom Kippur is for one event, and Yom Tovim and Rosh Chodesh is for Ein Yediyah, not the beginning, not to the end. And so how can you, if Yom Kippur got lost, how can you bring Yom Tov? It must be because Lev Bezin. And they're asking Shimon what he does. No, that's what you're convinced. There must be these Rabbanon hold of Lev Bezin. Who told you that's who it is? This is how you learn Pshat in the Mishnah. This is part of the question. We hold like Rabbi Yehuda. And even though Yom Kippur is no Yedi in the beginning, but Yedi at the end. Yom Tov is no Yedi beginning or end, and Rosh Chodesh is no Yedi beginning or end. We have no problem if we got lost to use it on another occasion. Why? We know we can bring it. Because Lebez Masna Lane, no problem. You believe, your Halfington, that you don't believe in Leb Bezin. How can you bring it? And he answers them because the theme is the same. They're all tumah. So you go, how do you know it's Rabbanon? Maybe that Meiri, maybe this Rabbanon who answered me, what's the Meir say? The Meir said that all the Chor Musafim do exactly the same thing. They're all metar, all occasions. No, if they all do the same thing, there's no Leb Bezin here. Don't do Leb Bezin here. It's the same. I mean, now call see a couple of I hold they're all doing the same thing. What's the Leb Bezin? El Rabbi Yechon, you're right. No right. Gemara Gomelai. He heard it from his rebbes. The Diva Rab Shimon ain't even according to Shimon you cannot be paid because he doesn't believe Leb Bezin, and the Diva Chachamim even you are paid. Pray the Gemara. Rab Shimon the Leslie Leb Bezin Maslain. He holds. He tackles holds Leb Bezin. What do you do with the extra kabbanas to me? You set aside these extra. You have extra 4 kabbanas for animals. What do you do with that? My oven. What do you do with that? Rabbi Yitzchak said. Rabbi Yechon says, you take these animals and it's kitzim is a dessert, as we're going to talk about later. You keep them as they're busy occupied. So they use these animals and you just not carbon tummy, not tomorrow, they're straight away on that day. Or even not on that day, but they use it on the no specific carbon. But Rab Shimon is made the ketamidin, which are really an oil, you burn it entirely mizbeach, so you can put on mizbeach. And what do you do with these animals they put on mizbeach just for the sake of burning it? It was color, it's completely burnt. But if there was a chatas, b'se'idei chatas, then he's made it. If you have a goat of a chatas left over, let's say, and let's say now it's over shnos, it's over a year old, you can no longer use it. He will not use the chatas directly on the mizbeach. He will wait till it has a mum, sell the chatas, and with that money, buy a new carbon. Why? You will not put the chatas directly on the mizbeach, the leftover. Why not? Elabed main, only its value. Why? It was set aside for carbon tummy. What is a carbon tummy? An oil. And what you do, you put them as mizbeach, as what you burn it like an oil. I will hustle me cut a chatas there. Let's say it was a chatas, but then over a shnosa. By the time you got around to it, it was over a year old. You can't use it more. And what do you want to do with it now? The hashta turns to an oila. Now, minadin, you can. Let's say the chatas got lost. Let's say you lost the chatas. So you replaced it. And now this chatas is no longer functioning as a chatas. So you have every right halachically to use it as an oila. I just put him as bech as an oila, but we don't want you to. People will see that you took a chatas and you turned it into an oila. They don't understand because the already the person was a chapper and now you have leftover. They think that you're allowed to swap. You change your mind. Therefore, to avoid that. I'm going to buy half an hour proves you. It says, "Pad, so you can put him. If you have a pad and a soil, you can put him. We just learned it now. Sha'avdu that you lost it. You lost your pad of soil and keep on. You brought another one in its place. Can't see the avoiders of the goats. The cloud you sold did not avail. You bring a pad and a soil. Sha'avdu you lost it. And brought it in its place. Now, what do you do with the original ones? Pull on your musa. You let them die. Give it up, Yehuda. Yiru, they wander about actually you stable till you have a mum, the yimachi, you sell it, and the yiplu lebeda. I mean the money you buy a carbon oil. What do you buy the money? A carbon oil. Put it on the back. Why do you go through a whole elaborate scheme? Just take these animals and put them on the bed directly. The carbon, the chata you don't no longer need, which now really is good oil, put it on the back. And the reason why they don't agree with that Rabbi Yehuda is because a chata community never dies. Kayamin is Kayamin Beish, Kayamin Bemin, Kayamin Bemin, the community will never die. Now, bring the animal itself as an oila. Why wait for a mum, sell it with the money? Technically, you could have done that, but we're worried if we allow them to swap from a chata to an oila, they'll do it next time, even before the kapara. I'll bring another ayah, same thing. I also bring an ayah. It says that the second one should wander about until it has a mum. We're talking about you have two goats on Yom Kippur, right? Well, they make a goydel, one goes to Hashem, one goes to Azazel. And then what happened was one of them died. So we had a discussion, you just bring replacement, we bring another pair. So now you have a redundant one. You have one extra either La Hashem or one extra either Chatus. What do you do with that one? So you either let it wander about, actually you stay until it contracts a mum, but you sell it, and the yiplu double. You take that money and use it to fill the mizbech. But you can be a gufa. Why don't you just take that animal? That animal is, since there's no longer necessary, and bring up in the mizbech as an oila. Isn't that a raya that we're worried about the kapara? I'll bring a third raya. Interesting, you need so many rayas. Abaya is challenges, and these guys are all proving. Abaya, in fact, in this case, also supports. Asham shemesa bailav, a carbon asham for a guilt offering for the avedas he required in asham, and the owner died. Asham is chapra bailav, or the owner was forgiven. What do you do now? What now we do is either let it wander about until it has a mum, the yimach and you sell it, the yiplu navlu and the money you buy. Rabbi Lezer says no, we let it die like a kamachatri. We let it die, even though Asham as well. Even though it's only bachatas, he said Asham also do the same thing. You let it die because the person no longer needs a kapara. Let it die. Rabbi Shua or Rabbi Lezer says, what Rabbi Shimon says, Yavi bedam of oila. You take with the money, you bring an oila, right? In other words, you sell it, you make a mum, you sell it with the money, you bring an oila. Now, with the card of haguf oila, here's Clark, the word oila, his eye is the strongest. Because he said, he doesn't say on the dover, he says, you buy an oila with it. So he said, why don't you just bring it up at chatchila? This could be the oila. Stop over here. And continue tomorrow, Mitzvah Shem.
Can I ask, if you got this very rare Pora Aduma, and now they've suddenly got two of them, why don't they use two?
They don't need that much. The very fact that
longer.
Seven covered, so many years, or 900 years, or 850 years, or 830 years, proves that because all you need is a drop. A little bit of Pora Aduma sprinkle. You don't have to cover the person. You just sprinkle a drop and he becomes tar. So therefore, it was plenty. It was plenty.
I would have looked at it differently. If Hashem's given two, there's a reason for it. Maybe the next one's not coming for 1,200 years.
Oh, well, that's a good question. I don't know. But it seems that whenever they needed it, they eventually found it. If you remember, a couple of years ago, they thought they found a red heifer somewhere, and it was flawless, and there was no black hairs, maybe one black hair on it.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what happened then, but we're all getting excited. Getting ready for the third base of English.
Yeah, it was the wrong time.
Mitzvah would be the right time.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I'll just say bye.